What's up, guys? Welcome to August 31st as we dive into Ezekiel chapter 37, a valley of dry bones. The Lord took hold of me, and I was carried away by the Spirit of the Lord to a valley filled with bones. He led me all around among the bones that covered the valley floor. They were scattered everywhere across the ground and went completely dried out. Then he asked me, Son of man, can those bones become living people again? O sovereign Lord, I replied, you alone know the answer to that. Then he said to me, Speak a prophetic message to these bones and say, Dry bones, listen to the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Look, I am going to put breath into you and make you live again. I will put flesh and muscles on you and cover you with skin. I will just breathe into you and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So I spoke this message just as he told me. Suddenly as I spoke, there was a rattling noise all across the valley. The bones of each body came together and attached themselves as complete skeletons. Then as I watched, muscles and flesh formed over the bones. Then skin formed to cover their bodies, but they still have no breath in them. Then he said to me, Speak a prophetic message to the winds, Son of man. Speak a prophetic message and say, This is what the sovereign Lord says. Come, breathe from the four winds. Breathe into these dead bodies so they may live again. So I spoke the message as he commanded me, and breath came into their bodies. They all came to life and stood up to their feet, a great army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones represent the people of Israel. They are saying, We have become old dry bones, all hope is lost. Our nation is finished. Therefore prophesy to them and say, This is what the sovereign Lord says. O my people, I will open your graves of exile and cause you to rise again. Then I will bring you back to the land of Israel. When this happens, O my people, you will know that I am the Lord. I will put my spirit in you, and you will live again and return home to your own land. Then you will know that I, the Lord, have spoken, and I have done what I said. Yes, the Lord has spoken. Reunion of Israel and Judah. Again the message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, take a piece of wood and carve on it these words. This represents Judah and its allied tribes. Then take another piece and carve these words on it. This represents Ephraim and the northern tribes of Israel. Now hold them together in your hand as if they were one piece of wood. When your people ask you what your actions mean, say to them, This is what the sovereign Lord says. I will take Ephraim and the northern tribes and join them to Judah. I will make them one piece of wood in my hand. Then hold out the piece of wood you have inscribed so the people can see them, and give them this message from the sovereign Lord. I will gather the people of Israel from among the nations. I will bring them home to their own land from the places where they have been scattered. I will unify them into one nation on the mountains of Israel. One king will rule them all. No longer will they be divided into two nations or into two kingdoms. They will never again pollute themselves with idols and vile images and rebellion, for I will save them from their sinful apostasy. I will cleanse them. Then they will truly be my people, and I will be their God. My servant David will be their king, and they will have only one shepherd. They will know my relations and be careful to keep my decrees. They will live in the land I gave my servant Jacob, at the land where their ancestors lived. They and their servants and their grandchildren after them will live there forever, generations after generation, and my servant David will be their prince forever, and I will make a covenant of peace with them, an everlasting covenant. I will give them their land and increase their numbers, and I will put my temple among them forever. I will make my home among them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. And when my temple is among them forever, the nations will know that I am the Lord, who makes Israel holy. Chapter 38, a message for Gog. Then this message came Then this message that came to me from the Lord: Son of man, turn and face Gog of the land of Magog, the prince who rules over the nations of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Give them this message from the sovereign Lord God: Gog, I am your enemy. I will turn you around and put hooks in your jaws to lead you out with your whole army, your horses and charioteers in full armor, and a great horde armed with shields and swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya will join you too with all their weapons. Gomer and all its armies will also join you, along with the armies of Beth Togarmah from the distant north and many others. Get ready, be prepared. Keep all the armies around you mobilized and take command of them. A long time from now you will be called into action. In the distant future you will be swooped down on the land of Israel, which will be enjoying peace after recovering from war, and after its people have returned from many lands to the mountains of Israel. You and all your allies, a vast and awesome army, will roll down on them like a storm and cover the land with a cloud. This is what the sovereign Lord says. At that time, evil thoughts will come to your mind, and you will devise a wicked scheme. You will say, Israel is in an unprotected land filled with unwalled villages. I will march against her and destroy these people who live in such confidence. I will go to those formerly desolate cities that are now filled with people who have returned from exile in many nations. I will capture vast amounts of plunder from the people, for the people are rich with livestock and other possessions now. They think the whole world evolves around them, but Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish will ask, do you really think the armies you have gathered can rob them of silver and gold? Do you think you can drive away their livestock and seize their goods and carry off plunder? Therefore, Son of man, prophesy against Gog. Give him this message from the sovereign Lord. When my people are living in peace in their land, then you will rouse yourself. You will come from your homeland in the distant north with your vast cavalry and your mighty army, and you will attack my people Israel, covering the land like a cloud. At that time in the distant future, I will bring you against my land as everyone watches, and my holiness will be displayed by what happens to you, Gog. Then all the nations will know that I am the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord asks. Are you the one I was talking about long ago, when I announced through Israel's prophets that in the future I would bring you against my people? But this is what the sovereign Lord says. When Gog invades the land of Israel, my fury will boil over. In my jealousy and blazing anger, I will promise a mighty shaking in the land of Israel on that day. All living things, the fish in the sea, the birds of the sky, the animals of the fields, the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people on earth will quake in terror at my presence. Mountains will be thrown down, cliffs will crumble, walls will fall to the earth. I will summon the sword against you on all the hills of Israel, says the sovereign Lord. Your men will turn their swords against each other. I will punish you and your armies and with disease and bloodshed. I will send torrential rain, hailstones, fire, and burning sulfur. In this way I will show my greatness and holiness. I will make myself known to all the nations of the world. Then they will know that I am the Lord. Ezekiel chapter 39. The slaughter of Gog's armies. Son of man, prophesy against Gog. Give him this message from the sovereign Lord. I am your enemy, O Gog, ruler of the nations of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around and drive you toward the mountains of Israel, bring you from the distant north. I will knock the bow from your left hand and the arrows from your right hand, and I will leave you helpless. You and your armies and your allies will all die on the mountains. I will feed you to the vultures and wild animals. You will fall in the open fields, for I have spoken, says the sovereign Lord, and I will rain down fire on Magog and on all your allies who live safely on the coasts. Then they will know that I am the Lord. In this way I will make known my holy name among my people of Israel. I will not let anyone bring shame on it, and the nations too will know that I am the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. That day of judgment will come, says the sovereign Lord. Everything will happen just as I have declared it. Then the people in the towns of Israel will go out and pick up your small, large shields, bows and arrows, javelins and spears, and they will use them for fuel. There will be enough to last them 7 years. They won't need to cut wood from the fields or forests, for these weapons will give them all the fuel they need. They will plunder those who plan to plunder them, and they will rob those who plan to rob them, says the sovereign Lord. And I will make a vast graveyard for Gog and his hordes in the valley of travelers east of the Dead Sea. It will block the way of those who travel there, and they will change the name of the place to the valley of Gog's horde. It will take 7 months for the people of Israel to bury the bodies and cleanse the land. Anyone in Israel will help, for it will be a glorious victory for Israel when I demonstrate my glory on that day, says the sovereign Lord. After 7 months, teams of men will be appointed to search the land for skeletons to bury, till the land will be made clean again. Whenever bones are found, a marker will be set up, so the burial crews will take them to be buried in the valley of Gog's hordes. There will be a town that named Hamanah, which means hordes, and so the land will finally be cleansed. And now, son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Call on the birds and the wild animals, say to them, gather together for my great sacrificial feast. Come from afar and near to the mountains of Israel, and there eat flesh and drink blood. Eat the flesh of mighty men and drink the blood of princes, as though they were rams, lambs, goats, and bulls, all fattened animals from Bashan. Gorge yourself with flesh until you are glutted. Drink blood until you are drunk. This is the sacrificial feast I have prepared for you. Feast on my banquet table, feast on horses and charioteers, on mighty men and all kinds of valiant warriors, says the sovereign Lord. In this way I will demonstrate my glory to the nations. Everyone will see the punishment I have inflicted on them, and the power of my fist will strike when I strike. And from that time on, the people of Israel will know that I am the Lord their God. The nations will then know why Israel was sent away to exile. It was punishment for sin, for they were unfaithful to their God. Therefore I will turn away from them and let their enemies destroy them. I will turn my face away and punish them because of their defilements and their sins. Restoration for God's people. So now, this is what the sovereign Lord says. In the captivity of my people, I will have mercy on Israel, for I jealously guard my holy reputation. They will accept my responsibility for their past shame and unfaithfulness, and after they come home to live in peace in their own land, with no one to bother them. When I bring them home from the lands of their enemies, I will display my holiness among them for all the nations to see. Then my people will know that I am the Lord their God, because I sent them away to exile and brought them home again. I will leave none of my people behind, and I will never again turn my face from them, for I will pour out my spirit upon the people of Israel. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. Chapter 32. A warning for Pharaoh. On March 3rd, during the 12th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity, this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, mourn for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and give him this message. You think of yourself as a strong young lion among the nations, but you are really just a sea monster, heaving around in your own rivers, stirring up mud with your feet. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I will send many people to catch you in my net and haul you out of the water. I will leave you stranded on the land to die. All the birds of the heavens will land on you, and the wild animals of the whole world will gorge themselves on you. I will scatter your flesh on the hills and fill the valleys with your bones. I will drench the earth with your gushing blood all the way to the mountains, filling the ravines into the brim. When I blot you out, I will veil the heavens and darken the stars. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon will not give you its light. I will darken the bright stars overhead and cover your land in darkness. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. I will disturb many hearts when I bring news of your downfall to distant lands, nations you have never seen. Yes, I will shock many lands, and their kings will be terrified at your fate. They will shudder in fear for their lives as I brandish my sword against them on the day of your fall. For this is what the sovereign Lord says: the sword of the king of Babylon will come against you. I will destroy your hordes with the swords of mighty warriors. The terror of the nations, they will scatter the pride of Egypt, and all its chariots will be destroyed. I will destroy all your flocks and herds that graze up beside the streams. Never again will people or animal muddy those waters with their feet. Then I will let the waters of Egypt become calm again, and they will flow as smoothly as olive oil, says the sovereign Lord. And when I destroy Egypt and strip you of everything you own and strike down all your people, then you will know that I am the Lord. Yes, this is a funeral song they will sing for Egypt. Let all the nations mourn. Let them mourn for Egypt and its hordes. I, the sovereign Lord, have spoken. And so that's the end for today. So like kind of to really start off, I want to go back to Ezekiel chapter 32, where God says, you think of yourself as a strong young lion among the nations, but you are really just a sea monster having around in your own rivers, around in your own rivers, stirring up mud with your feet. Therefore, this was what the sovereign Lord says: I will send many people to catch you in my net and hold you out of the water. So the reason why that stood out to me is, when it comes to a lion, lion is a representation of courage and bravery, right? And so the people of Egypt think that the nation of Israel, if Egypt think that they're like courageous people with the way they act, with the lifestyle that they live in. But God says that no matter how courageous they may seem, they may seem to be, or they believe themselves to be, at the end of the day, they are a bunch of sea monsters. And like how like they just hover around in their darkness. The water is like representation of their darkness. That's where they plan all their evil actions, evil activities, and how God will bring people into the people of Egypt, and how like expose their darkness. And so that really stood out to me, because I think we all have moments in our lives where we do things, we lie to ourselves, saying, oh, I'm doing this for somebody else, I'm doing this to save somebody else, I'm doing this to help somebody else. But like the thing is, like behind that claim, we may have that selfish desire, we may have like another opinion, we may have another motives behind the broad motives, or the motives that we claim to have. And so for me, it's like realizing that sometimes we don't have the best motives when it comes to helping people. And so how do we like either help people, but then letting them know what is really actually behind our motivations? Because if we try to pretend that we're doing what's good for the people, then somehow, some way, people will be brought into your life that was going to expose your true intentions as to why you do the things that you do. And I'd rather that none of us have to be found out by other people of our motivations. Let us be the ones to initiate our own selfish motivations. Let us expose ourselves when it comes to the flaws behind our actions, so that we don't get embarrassed, so that we don't have to punish, so that there is no trouble in getting ourselves and the people that we help in trouble. And so that's something that really stood out to me. And then God gathered this whole group of nations, and God being like the leader of the group of a lot of nations together, and how they were supposed to fight against the people of Israel, and how God says that no matter how many people are in that army, God is always going to put his hand on the people of Israel. Even if God did send his people into exile and letting their enemies be the ones to punish them because of their sins, right? But like realizing that God, when he sends his own people into exile, he also makes sure that he also made a way at the end of the exile for his people to be freed. So it's another story, another beautiful story of how God is always faithful to us. Even when in the midst of him punishing us, you know that he's still looking after us. You know that he will always have a plan to offer us salvation, to offer us restoration, if we allow ourselves, if we accept that gift, and trusting that no matter how difficult life seems to be, no matter how many people persecute you for your faith and shame you for your faith, you have to stay strong. Because if God can protect one nation against the attacks of multiple nations at a time, what makes you think that God cannot protect you from a couple people, from a few people? And so like trusting that God does have your back, that he does love you, that he does want to care for you. And sometimes we will face difficulties, but it's all about, are we willing to put our faith in the Father? Are we willing to put our faith in God? And so and then kind of like the last message I really got out of is the dry bones. As I was reading this story, it never occurred to me that, God really could have just asked Ezekiel just talk to the bones, and then the bones just all come just instantly become humans. But instead, the bones gathered together to form the skeletons. Then God asks Ezekiel to speak life into their bodies, and it became flesh. And after that, God asks Ezekiel to say breath, to give the dead bodies breath. And then that's how they all came into life. And the reason why this really stood out to me is because I am sure, guys, there are parts of our lives where it's like those dry bones that needs to be awakened by the word of God, by the presence of God. And when we pray to God for revival, when we pray God to breathe life into our dead areas, into areas of our lives that are dead, you know that God, if you really truly mean it, God will work with you on it. But don't expect God to just instantly help you. For example, let me just give you examples. For example, I used to struggle with pornography and masturbation, and so for a long time before I just prayed to God and saying, God, please take these sins away from me, please take these temptations away from me. And for a long time I have the mentality that maybe one day I just wake up and realize that God just delivered me from these temptations, from these sins, right? But instead God took steps. He helped me. He gave me steps to overcome those temptations, overcome the sin. He does not just instantly get rid of the temptations. I have to work for it. I have to actually exercise my self-control. I have to exercise saying no to my body when it feels tempted into doing these things. And so that's an example of when it comes to my sexual life. Well, I don't know if that's the right term to use, but my sins, I want God to take it away from me. That's a dead area in my life. But God breathed life into that parts of my life where I'm able to get rid of that. But it took a while. It took steps, right? It took steps. I have to first humble myself before God. Then I have to talk to somebody who I could trust about my struggles. And that's really hard because I'm always afraid that people would be rude, see me differently because I've struggled with those things in the past. But sometimes we have to go through step by step for us to finally experience deliverance, experience freedom from whatever that we may be struggling with. So I pray that you would take your time today just to think about what part of your life do you need God to breathe life into? And not only that, but ask God, God, what are the steps you're asking me to take? What are steps that are necessary for me to experience freedom, experience deliverance from, or experience life in this parts of my life. And so I hope what I shared is helpful. That I'm always sad when people, like, I know there's always areas of each of our lives where it's dead, and I pray to God, asking God to just fill that dead space in their life with life. Bless that dead part of their life with life. And so I pray that what I shared is helpful, that you just take considerations into what exactly are the steps that's needed. I mean, not only that, but first of all, what do you need God to bring life into? What parts of your life do you need God to breathe life into? Then ask God, what are steps you want me to take? What are some ways I could contribute to have deliverance, having a sense of freedom from, or having a sense of life into those areas of my life and stuff. And I just realized that, I just hope that you know that sometimes it takes time, but it's worth it. We just have to keep sticking with God, asking God to breathe life into areas of our life, asking God to deliver us from certain sins. It's all about coordinating with God. It's always working with God. It's like a partnership. God's not just going to instantly heal us. We have to exercise. We have to actually work we have to also work to experience life and deliverance. So may you guys go and walk with God today.